Hey everybody, it's Tim here again, and I just wanted to come out with an update on this new stimulus package. And let's call it like it is. It's a tax reform that's being signed into law today by Mr. Biden. Yep, it's already passed through the House and through the Senate. And it wasn't bipartisan by any means. They passed it through something that they call budget reconciliation, which means that they didn't need a single vote from the Republicans to pass it. And it's really just kind of, it's really a lot of noise that I'm hearing and reading on the internet about this new bill being signed by the president today. That they called it the Inflation Reduction Act, but it's kind of just like being rebranded from that $5 trillion Build Back Better plan. I mean, they said that thing was supposed to be like 3 to 5 trillion, depending on who you believe. The CBO came out and they made a report that said it was going to cost roughly $5 trillion, which is who I would tend to believe. I know the Democrats are going to say one thing and Republicans are going to say another, but since the CBO is very nonpartisan, they're a very good source to listen to. So it's kind of been slimmed down from that $5 trillion package to less than $1 trillion. So in this video, I just want to give you guys a breakdown of everything that you guys need to know and how this is going to affect us in the middle class. This tax bill is 725 pages long. So I didn't want you guys to go through and have to read all of it. I pulled out the main points that are going to affect me, all my clients, all the middle class people, okay? So let me point out the 5 main components that I want to touch on, because these are the financial parts of the bill that are supposed to reduce inflation. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Number 1, they have a climate initiative where they're going to spend just $385 billion investing in green energy. That's going to get us to a lower carbon by 40%, hopefully by the year 2030. This initiative is for us to invest in our homes and solar energy, but it's to buy EVs. There are some clauses in there that aren't being talked about right now. Like the solar thing has already been going on. They're really extending it. It was supposed to end in 2022. Now it's being extended in 2024, okay? And another new provision is whenever you get this EV tax credit of $7,500, you got to be making less than $150,000 per year if you're single, and less than $300,000 per year if you're married filing joint. So I don't know. Most people buying EVs are making a lot of money because the cars cost a lot of money. So again, it's being limited by income. Another small clause that they aren't really like blowing up about is that the batteries have to be made right here in the USA, which means that one of the biggest manufacturers of EVs, Tesla, their customers really don't meet the thresholds, so they're not going to get these tax credits. All right, so I wonder if this is just like a silly way of saying, like, let's put some tax credits out there that not everybody's really going to claim and say this is how much we're investing. I guess we'll see. All right, Medicare. So this is good stuff. Medicare reform is allowing the government the ability to negotiate with the drug companies. Now, while there are going to be some caps on prescription drugs such as insulin, which is a good thing, they show in the budget that this is going to change and save the government $288 billion off of their budget. I thought that this was supposed to be a positive for the American people's budget. So Medicare can negotiate with the drug companies, so they're going to squeeze the drug companies for profits, right? That I don't know, unless you can just print $288 billion out of thin air. You can't do that, can you? Or can you? All right, so number 3, and this is where it starts to get juicy, guys. The IRS is going to get an additional $80 billion to raise $204 billion in revenue for the government. They currently have a budget of about $13 billion. To show you how much it's being expanded freaking a lot. Just call it like it is. It's Take $204 billion that they're promising in new revenues minus the $80 billion in spending. It's $124 billion in profits. So these are all coming from the highest income tax brackets earners, right, Tim? Tell me that's what they said. They said 400 and above, right? Well, let's just keep going. Number 4, there's a 1% excise tax on corporate buybacks or stock repurchases. The reason I think this is a big deal for us, even though we're probably not the ones involved in these buybacks directly, this will cost it's estimated that this will cost America roughly 29,000 jobs. So just something that kind of rolls downhill on the middle class, right? Something to point out and something to just be aware of, right? All right, and finally, the big one. There's a 15% tax increase on the minimum on any corporation over $1 billion in taxes. So it's basically a corporate minimum tax increase. So what is that like? If you've ever paid alternative minimum taxes before, this is kind of like alternative minimum taxes. It's a minimum amount of taxes that you're going to pay for being at a certain income level, right? So this is expected to raise $314 billion, but some economists say that it's going to be passed on to the consumer, actually causing more inflation, not reducing it. So not really sure why they call it their Inflation Reduction Act, but bottom line here is this. When you look at everything, if you're making less than $200,000 per year, they are increasing taxes by $16.7 billion in the first year. If you're between $200,000 to $500,000, then there's going to be an increase of taxes of $14.1 billion in the first year. So the bulk of the money are coming from Americans earning less than $200,000. That's just in the first year. All right, now let me show you guys something really quick and take a look at how they're going to use these IRS agents, because I'm going to show you a chart on how income taxes are paid and how much is actually collected. Okay, this is kind of cool. So here is the chart, and as you can see here, this is the top 1% that they're claiming that they're going to tax the most. And you see here, this is adjusted gross income, and it's expressed in millions. So they collected roughly let's call it $2.39 trillion from the top 1%. From the top 5%, they collected $4.2 trillion. From the top 10%, they collected $5.6 trillion. From the top 25, I think you guys can see where I'm going with this, right? It keeps on getting bigger. The top 50%, here it is, the big slice of the pie. Top 50% pays $10 trillion of the income. You got $1.3 trillion that they can go after on this bottom amount. They're paying $653 per year. I think they're actually this is going to be more of a tax cut for them, if anything, or at least hopefully. I think the inflation is kind of going to be the negative thing for the lower income filers, especially those on a fixed income. So anyway, guys, I thought that was interesting to point out, because I know that they've been pitching this as being that they're just going to come after those of the people making over a certain amount of money. But, you know, it's kind of a funny fact that I found out today. Did you know that the income taxes weren't even a thing until 1913? So from 1873 all the way to 1913, there was no income taxes and America thrived. And then in 1913, what happened is that they introduced, hey, we're just going to tax, we're going to put the 16th Amendment in. We're just going to tax the richest of the rich 1%, just a little bit. And so that's what they did. Now, fast forward 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 1913, in the 30s, now they're taxing everybody, right? So once they set a precedence, folks, like they're coming out talking about just affecting people at 400,000. Well, we're looking at the numbers and we're seeing that it's affecting everybody that's under $62,000 per year of income. Anyone making less than or making $62,000 a year or above in household income, it's probably an impact to the negative side. Not to mention, I'm not seeing any inflation reduction, and the CBO didn't say any inflation reduction. All right, folks, that's kind of a breakdown of the Inflation Reduction Act, or what I like to call the Tax Reform Act. of 2022. So not anything to be afraid of. It's a whole lot better than that $5 trillion thing they tried to shove through Congress. I think the biggest thing here is that there's going to be a lot more audits for the middle class. But hey, as long as you're in line with your taxes, then it's not going to be a big deal. It's just going to be a big deal for those who aren't paying taxes. All right, folks, if you like my perspective, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Hit that notification bell. That way you get notified with my future videos. See you in the next one.